If you truly need to manifest the soul's journey, the soul's direction, in which direction the soul needs to move to be able to accomplish what the soul's intention is for the reason why we have arrived in this world. So it's important to see the combined effects of the Atma Karaka, the planet with the highest degrees in your horoscope, not only in the 12 houses but also in the 12 signs. Hello, Namaskar and Adab to all my friends from your friend astrologer and guide Irfan, once more with you from your very own channel, Astro Assurance. We have been doing the series of the Gemini Karakas also, and in that light we have covered the Atmakaraka, the Matyakaraka, the Dharakaraka and so on. In that light we have covered the Atmakaraka in different houses, the Matyakaraka in different houses, the professions connected to the Matyakaraka as well. However, today we are going to cover the other aspect of the Atma Karaka and different signs. As we know that the Atma Karaka is the planet with the highest degrees in the horoscope, and it also, according to the Gemini astrology or Gemini perspective or Gemini approach, it gives the soul's intention. The planet with the highest degrees is what represents the soul's journey. So let's jump in and see how the Atmakaraka placed in different signs in the horoscope is manifesting along with the combined effects, which I've already done in another video, the Atmakaraka in different houses. What the soul journey is in this innings of yours, in this manifestation, how you're going to approach what the soul intends to do. Now, what is the main characteristics of the soul or of the Atmakaraka when it is in the Aries sign, or as it is said in astrology, in Vedic astrology, the Mesh Rashi. So here the main characteristic of the person is in the soul's achieving their direction is to be bold. The person, whatever the approach to the soul journey is, he or she has to approach it with a boldness. Because in which house it is placed in will give you what is that you need to achieve. The sign will give you how you need to achieve it. So the soul journey of Atmakaraka in the Aries sign is about achieving the goal with boldness, and also not to depend on too many others, but to be very independent in your approach and independently pioneer your effort to be able to move in that direction. However, at the same time, sometimes the person can become too impulsive in trying to achieve its goal, the soul's goal. So the soul here is restless till you achieve your goal also. However, this is a very action-oriented placement when the Atmakaraka is in the Aries sign. Now, what is the drive for the person here, of the Atma, the soul here? The drive is to lead, to conquer. So leading from the front, trying to conquer, trying to achieve, which the Aries sign represents, and rather than waiting for somebody else to initiate the direction on yourself. So this is about soul trying to reach out and trying to initiate the journey to be able to achieve its own goals. And the other thing is also the drive is to assert your individuality in what goal you're trying to achieve, rather than trying to see how I am giving or sharing the accolades with other people as well. So here you need to assert your individuality because your Mars is in question, because it is the Aries sign. Now, what is the main challenge area for the soul to be able to achieve its objective? Because here Mars sign is also, Mars sign being Aries is also under question. Is the main challenge area for that is how the person may sometimes be overcome by anger if the soul's direction is not met, if the soul's purpose is not met, based on which house the Atmakaraka is. And sometimes the person may try to dominate others in trying to achieve the soul's direction, which you need to be a little careful about. And obviously there is also a certain recklessness to how you go about doing your objective. So one has to be careful in achieving your goal, not to be too reckless and not to allow ego to come into the picture. This can happen specifically if there are more sun's energies or sun's conjunction, which also comes along, because Aries is also a go-getting energy. So sometimes ego can also be a challenge. Now, the main development lesson for the soul here is to learn to be patient rather than to be reckless, and to learn humility rather than allowing ego to be to overpower you. And in trying to achieve your objective, try to have a cooperative leadership rather than the Martian leadership that I need to go and conquer, I need to achieve, I need to be the pioneering spirit. Obviously, you do that, but have a cooperative leadership, which means you also need to learn to cooperate with others while you're being the leader, while you're initiating, while you're also being bold and independent. Now, the main characteristic or the main elevation of the soul that will come about is from how you will be able to use your energy to drive action, and to be able to drive action towards a more dharmic, a more spiritual leadership, and to also consciously be courageous in trying to obtain the objective, to attain what the soul's direction is. So overall, this is a placement where there are some good energies, there are some tough energies, there are some obstacles also, but this is the most go-getting energy for the Atmakaraka when it is in the Aries sign. Now, when the Atmakaraka is in the Taurus sign or in the Vrishabha sign as it is also called in Vedic astrology. So what is the main characteristic when the Atmakaraka is in the Taurus sign? Whichever planet may be the Atmakaraka. So the main characteristic of the person here is to be able to be steady. So the soul's objective is to steadily approach its goal. Now, the house in which the Atmakaraka is placed will give you where to achieve the goals. But the sign in which it is placed will give you how to go about and achieve the goals. So here, the how is the steady part. And sometimes what happens is this person, because of the Atmakaraka being in Taurus, so the soul's objective is to try and do something which is more comforting for others, or to do something which is also comforting for the soul. The soul should also feel comfortable and happy and satisfied in trying to achieve the soul's objective, the Atma's objective. So yeah, the energy is more grounded. So being connected to the roots is very important here, and the person will also try to do something which for the downtrodden, for those people who are at the base level. So this is a very grounding energy, because here the earth sign is also involved. However, at the same time, because it is the Taurus energy ruled by Venus, so a lot of sensuality will also come into the picture. So sometimes the soul's objective is towards leaning toward the sensual. For example, somebody's soul's objective is to write something which will help the intimacy factor between two souls. The sexual combination or coming together, the yin and yang energy, is not seen as taboo or something bad in astrology. So something which helps the yin and yang energy to come together, to be more intimate, to be more loving, to be more closer, to be more caring towards each other, to approach each other, to be binded together, is what the sensuality will also bring in. So the person may also approach the soul's goal towards something which is very sensual, towards something which will help others in the intimacy also. So there is some sexual energy which is also involved. At the same time, while sensuality is important, loyalty is the key. So this person will also be very loyal to the soul's objective rather than being very wishy-washy. Now, what is the drive of the soul to be able to achieve its objective? The main drive is to get the stability. Material stability is also important while trying to achieve the Atma's objective. And the other objective, or the main other drive, is that whatever I will do something which is beautiful, which will last long, and which will be good for people, where people may remember it, and the legacy of this thing will be for long. What is the main challenge area or troubling area or the frustrating area or the obstacle area is that sometimes the person may, if their goal subjective, the soul subjective is not being met, sometimes the person can stagnate in what they are trying to achieve. Sometimes the attachments of somebody who you love, something which is more earthly, something which is material, may also stop you in trying to achieve your objective. And sometimes the person himself will be very resistant to change. So this is something that the person has to guard. So what are the developmental lessons for this person? Cultivate the inner richness rather than the material richness than from the outside, and detach yourself from the material dependency on others, material dependency on money, material dependency on comforts. And where will you achieve the soul's elevation is to not look at the material fixation, but to be content with yourself in what you are trying to achieve, through being more grounded, perhaps something more long-lasting. And so your spiritual elevation will also happen through the spiritual abundance that you have by being fixated to the ground. Now, what is the result of Atmakaraka being in the Gemini sign, or the Mithun Rashi as it is called? So what is the main characteristic of this placement of the Atma Karaka, the planet with the highest degrees. So the main characteristic is what Gemini sign represents. Gemini sign represents the communication, your ability to connect with people, the ability to influence people. So many times the main characteristic of the person while trying to achieve the soul's objective depends on where the Atma Karaka, in which house it is placed, because the Atma Karaka in which house it is placed is about what to achieve, and Atma Karaka in which sign it is how to achieve it. So yeah, communication is the key to achieve your soul's objective. And yeah, the person sometimes can be very witty and very curious in trying to understand different life's manifestation while trying to achieve the goals. So curiosity, ability to communicate, ability to influence people, ability to be very adaptable in trying to achieve its objective is also the key here. So sometimes the person can do certain things which are moving in different direction. Gemini is also dual energy. So many times this person can be very multi-talented in the skills of the house where the Atma Karaka is placed, because many skills are given to the person to be able to obtain the soul's objective when it is in the Gemini sign. So if it is say in the 5th house, so then the multi-talent can be lots of musical talent, for example. A lot of artistic nature can also be given. If it's in the 8th house, so there can be a lot of mechanical energy, mechanical talents which are coming to the person. If it's in the 11th house, a lot of social skills can be for the person, even if it's in the 11th house in the Gemini sign, for example. So this is a very strong placement of a person being multi-talented, and so it's a good placement also. Now, what is the main drive for the person in trying to achieve it? So the main drive to be able to achieve the soul's journey is, soul's objective is to connect with people, to learn from your association with people, to be able to question people. Question why you want to achieve this, so that you are able to see the higher level or higher value of the soul's journey. Main challenge area, main frustrating area, main obstacle will be sometimes the mental restlessness may overcome you. So in trying to achieve your objective, you may sometimes feel too little restless. Sometimes, should I do this? Should I do that? Is this the main thing that I've born for? Is this something that I've born for? Sometimes the confusion will also come in. So sometimes in trying to achieve your soul's goal, you may be too superficial rather than being consistent. So you need to guard against this, and otherwise you'll be frustrated. Now, what are the developmental lessons for such a person? Main developmental lesson for such a person to be able to achieve the objective is to develop the focus and be sincere in achieving the goals rather than being wishy-washy, rather than moving into many different directions. And while you are communicating, be thoughtful in your communication. Weigh your words, weigh what you're trying to communicate. Understand people's perspectives also well before you are trying to convince them to be able to help you in achieving the soul's objective. And the main developmental areas is to develop your focus and being sincere, while the spiritual elevation will come only when you are able to use your intellect and focus and combine it in one direction rather than be too scattered. Sometimes the Gemini energies can make somebody very scattered. So be able to focus in one direction and to be able to share your wisdom. Don't get too fixated on one thing, or I need to achieve this, or I need to do only this. So be willing to share what you want to do with people, get people along, influence people to be able to help you also, and to have a conscious dialogue with people and try to achieve it. So the placement of the Atma Karaka in different signs is more about the how part rather than the why part. So in Gemini, the questions that you need to ask are the most critical. Now, when the Atma Karaka is in the Cancer sign or the Karka Rashi or the Karka sign as it is mentioned in Vedic astrology. So here, the Atma Karaka's placement in a sign is more about the how part rather than what part. The what part comes from in which house it is. That video we have already done. So here, how to be able to obtain your objective. So when the Atma Karaka is in the Cancer sign, the main characteristic is to be able to achieve your soul's journey, soul's goal through a more emotional approach, a more nurturing approach, more empathetic approach, a more sensitive approach, something which is centered around the family values, and to do something which is very protective for others, or protecting others, or caring others, or more supportive of others. When they feel that I'm protected, this is something that helps society, this is something which helps family, this is something which helps the emotional bonding, this is something which helps the sensitivity in an individual. The work that you do will be able to use that energy of sensitivity and empathy to be able to obtain the soul's objective. Now, what is the main drive for such a person? The main drive is to be getting connected emotionally to the goal. So whatever is the goal, if you truly need to achieve it, you need to be emotionally connected to the goal. If you don't feel strongly emotionally about the goal, then it will be very difficult. And the family bonds or the familial bonds have to be very strong, which means in trying to do something, you should also look at something which helps the family, which helps the larger unit, which helps society rather than an individual. And that is why Atma Karaka is placed in the Cancer sign. Now, the main challenge area for such a person can be too over emotional, to not be able to control your emotional tendencies, or to be over dependent on others rather than being self-assured in your own empathy. And the fear of being too vulnerable, that I will be vulnerable to others, I'll be vulnerable to people who will want to obtain or object or get material success rather than their spiritual success or the caring success or the supportive success. So the fear of vulnerability will also maybe stop you, because the Cancer people don't want to be emotionally vulnerable, because that is their Achilles heels also. And so what are the development areas for you? The main development areas is to balance your emotional needs, or don't depend emotionally too much on others. Be more self-aware what your challenge areas are. What are your fallacies? What are your drawbacks? What are your emotional challenges that you need to overcome? Then the spiritual maturity will also come in. So unless you're mature in your character, in your personality, the spiritual maturity will not come. And where will the spiritual elevation come from? The spiritual elevation will come from being more selfless in what you're trying to get to the goal. So whichever house it is in, the Atma Karaka, whatever you're trying to achieve, it is to be able to do it with selflessness, with a selfless love, if I can use that word, and to be able to overcome the emotional transcendence, or to transcend the emotional boundaries to be able to obtain your objective. Now, what is the placement of the Atma Karaka in the Leo sign mean, in the Simha Rashi mean, as it is called in Vedic astrology? So, the placement of the Atma Karaka, the planet with the highest degrees in the Leo sign, in the Simha Rashi, means that you need to be able to obtain your soul's objective with leadership, accountability, and responsibility. So the main characteristic of this person is that you need to be able to express what your goals are. Take the leadership and accountability for the soul's objective. Be proud and have the pride in the goal you're trying to achieve, because Atma Karaka and Leo means that if you don't feel proud, or you don't feel a sense of pride in what you're trying to achieve, then you will fall short in trying to achieve the soul's objective. And in this, you will feel that the goal that you are trying to achieve will also be something regal that you're trying to achieve, maybe for the larger humanity. And loyalty is the key. Loyalty of people working under you, because here it is the leadership skill which you're using. So the loyalty is the key. So that means you have to develop the loyalty in others to be able to obtain the soul's objective, because the placement of Atma Karaka in a certain sign is about the how part, not the what part. It's not about what you're trying to achieve, how you're trying to achieve the soul's objective. So what is the main drive here? The drive is to shine in the world, in trying to do something which will help you be able to showcase your work in such a way that it shines. People are able to see it, people are able to admire it, and you should be able to express it fully for people to be able to understand and to be able to come along with you, or show loyalty to your goal also. And shun the ego. That is your main challenge area. Shun the arrogance, shun the demand for recognition. So the recognition is to be for the goal rather than for yourself. Sometimes the pride in the objective should be for the goal rather than for yourself, because otherwise it is a challenge area, main challenge area for you. So the main development lesson for you is to serve with humility rather than with pride, and to feel honor in trying to achieve the goal rather than seeking honor for self. So try to feel that it is a big honor for me to be able to achieve this goal for others, and validation will come to you by itself rather than you seeking a validation from others. Where will the spiritual elevation come from? The spiritual elevation will come from, not from self-glorification, but glorifying the main goal that you're trying to achieve, and to be responsible in what you're trying to achieve. Doing service in dharma, or what is spiritual, what is also more religious, not religious from a religion perspective, but being religious from a spiritual perspective in trying to attain the soul's elevation, soul's purification. Now, what does the meaning of the placement of the Atma Karaka and the Virgo sign mean in the Kanya Rashi or the Kanya sign mean, as it is called in Vedic astrology. So here, the placement of the Atma Karaka in a certain sign is not about the what part, what you're trying to achieve, but how part. How will you achieve what your soul's goal are? The how part, the what part will come from in which house it is placed. That video we have already done. So here it is more about the how part. So the Atma Karaka going in the Virgo sign is more about how the main characteristic of this is to be more detail oriented in your approach. That's why Atma Karaka has gone into the Virgo sign. Be as detail oriented as you can do to be able to achieve the soul's objective. Otherwise, the soul will be restless. And try and do your job, whatever the soul's objective is, depending on which house it is in, with an approach to do a good job. Almost a perfect job, if not the perfect job. And also be very analytical in different steps. Is this the right thing? Am I moving in the right direction? And to be able to be very dutiful to the cause. What am I trying to achieve? Where am I heading? So this is my responsibility. This is my duty to do. That's why my Atma Karaka is in this house and in this sign. And feel modest about your goals, your objective, rather than self-praise or something. So what will be the main drive? Your main drive in soul's objective is to improve things, improve systems, improve procedures, improve objectives, improve approaches. So your main drive to be able to get whatever the soul's goal is, depending on which house the Atma Karaka is, to be able to get it through somehow trying to improve or better things than before, and trying to heal others, which Virgo sign represents, and which is Virgo sign represents the sixth house, and to able to serve people. So what are the main challenge areas for such a person? Don't be too critical of others. Try and be more analytically critical or constructively critical to be able to do better job of being able to obtain the objectives. Sometimes don't be driven by anxiety or be too over anxious or trying to excessively control the output, trying to do a perfectionist job. That is not the main approach to work. Try and do a good job out of it as much as possible, close to perfection, but don't be hindered by trying to be perfect. And that is our main developmental issue. Don't try to be too perfect, and align your service with devotion in what you're trying to achieve. So now, what is the spiritual elevation for the soul in trying to get the Atma Karaka or the soul journey? Is rather than being judgmental, be more healing, be more serving, have a humility in your approach, which Virgo sign represents, and to be selfless in your service, because the sixth house is also the Bhrigu Bhava. So in trying to achieve, obtain your soul's goal, be more selfless in your service. Then the overall manifestation of the healing tendency, the serving tendency will be fulfilled. Now, what is the meaning of Atma Karaka and the Libra sign, or the Tula Rashi, or the Tula sign as it is called in Vedic astrology? Now remember, the Atma Karaka is not about the what part. When it is in a certain sign, the what part is about the house it is placed in. The placement in a certain sign is how part rather than the what part. So when the Atma Karaka is in the Libra sign, it is how will you obtain the soul's goal depending on which house it is in. So the main characteristic for such a person is to be very harmonious. So the energy that you have to use to be able to get to the goal is to be very harmonious in your approach, to try and build relations in trying to obtain your objective. And at the same time, be very balanced in your approach to people. Many times, the goal that the soul will also have will be more artistic, which the Libra sign represents. So, in a very artistic manner, try and obtain your objective with building relationship, with tact, with balance, with being also a little diplomatic rather than manipulative. So, the main drive for such a person is to be able to create or foster balance in your relationship, in your objective, and try to do something which is very beautiful in the soul's journey, and not just relationship, but overall how balanced you are and how you're trying to create beauty, how you're trying to create something artistic, how you're trying to create something aesthetic. So the main challenge area will be, because of Libra representing the relationship sign, not to be too dependent on somebody else to help you in objective. Otherwise, I may not be able to do. Other challenges, sometimes you can be too indecisive in this placement. So be more decisive, be more direct, and don't seek validation from others. Be sure of what you are trying to do, even when you seek inputs from your relationships or from your connections. So the main development lesson for you is to stand for the truth without disrupting harmony with people, because Libra sign is about relationship. Where will the spiritual elevation come from? The spiritual elevation will come from external balance that you are able to make in your approach to get the soul's objective. So whatever you're trying to obtain, depending on which house the Atma Karaka is, you are trying to create balance with others. You are trying to create the inner equilibrium with others in trying to obtain the objectives, and that's how people will come along, and that's how your dharma will be fulfilled. Your spiritual objective will be fulfilled. Now, what is the meaning of when the Atma Karaka is in the Scorpio sign or the Vrishchika Rashi as it is called in Vedic astrology? Now, remember, the Atma Karaka in a certain sign is not about the what you're trying to achieve, but this is more about the how part, how you're trying to achieve. So, which house the Atma Karaka is in represents the what part. The sign in which it is placed is the how part. So, when the Atma Karaka, the planet with the highest degrees from Gemini perspective or Gemini approach, is about what is the main objective that or main characteristic of the soul in trying to obtain the objective, while the Atma Karaka is in the Scorpio sign. So mind you, this is more about the transformation that you're bringing about, the change that you're bringing about in society itself, in your surrounding. So this is the main characteristic, is very, very intense. But at the same time, sometimes this can be a very private goal rather than something which is a very public goal. So many times people may quietly write a book, write an analysis, write a thesis, do a PhD, publish their work, and do it quietly and then announce to the world. So sometimes when you're taking people along also, you may not share all your cards. Sometimes the transformation may not happen if you're a little secretive. Atma Karaka in the Scorpio sign is also to keep the cards close to your chest. Whichever larger goal you're trying to manifest to your soul, you need to keep it more private, or keep it or share it with people who you can trust, or very few people, because this is a very powerful manifestation. This is very, very emotionally deep, because here the soul is getting connected to the transformative energy of the Scorpio sign. So the main drive for you is to have your inner mastery over yourself. Unless you master over yourself, the emotional mastery that you have, the balanced mastery that you have over your own self, over your own fears, which Scorpio represents, the deep down fears that it represents, you may not be able to obtain the higher objective. So overcome your fears, overcome your challenges, overcome your issues, overcome the fears that you have. If I'm not able to achieve this. And so the main challenge area is to not to be too controlling of your objective, or to be too obsessive of your objective, or to be over secretive also. You need to be secretive, but you can share it with a few people who are like-minded people. So for example, 2 or 3 scientists working on something which will be good for the humanity, but they are not sharing what they are working on. They'll work on it for a few years, maybe use some help from outside, and then one fine day announce their discoveries, announce their inventions to the world. So otherwise, this can bring a lot of emotional volatility if your goal is lost, if the secrecy also is lost. So the main developmental goal is to embrace that you can sometimes be vulnerable to outside influences, failures also. So to surrender to the fear and to overcome the fear by very strong commitment to the goal, and to have a strong emotional connection to the goal, and be ready for emotional rebirth, which Scorpio sign represents, being the depth of the 8th house. And so that's where the spiritual elevation will also come, when you achieve your objective based on which house it is in. By being able to control your fear, by being able to control your emotions, and to clearly transform not only the goal that you're trying to achieve in the world, but also transformation of your emotional being, transformation of your fears, transformation of the innate desires that you have, and to surrender to the divine. Then the Atma Karaka in Scorpio will help you obtain your objective. Now, what does the placement of the Atma Karaka in the Sagittarius sign or the Dhanu Rashi mean? The placement of the Atma Karaka in a certain sign is more about the how part rather than the what part. The placement of the Atma Karaka in a certain house is more about the what part. What are you trying to achieve? The placement of the Atma Karaka in a certain sign is in trying to obtain that objective. How should you go about? What are the energies that you should be able to use, and what will be the vulnerabilities? What will be the challenge areas? What will be the spiritual elevation? So the main characteristic of Atma Karaka being in the Sagittarius sign is that this is a 9th house energies, which in the Kalpurush Kundli, Sagittarius is the 9th sign. So this is about having a more philosophical clarity about what you're trying to obtain or try to arrive at. So a very philosophical level of understanding or then looking at the bigger picture before you get to the brass tacks, and to use a lot of optimism in trying to obtain your objective. So to know very clearly what you're trying to do. So if you're not optimistic about the goal, if at the larger picture you don't understand, then it will be difficult. So being more exploratory, explore, observe, try and delve deeper into things. At the same time, also don't hesitate to take some risks also, because that is the energy given to you because of the Atma Karaka being the Sagittarius sign. This is about how you should be able to obtain your objective. So what will be the main drive for you? So the main drive is to understand the larger truth, the larger perspective, the larger philosophical truth, and then to be able to obtain your objective. So yeah, this is also about using ethical means to be able to obtain your objective, depending on which house it is, rather than using manipulative means. And to be able to help people, and your goal should inspire people, should be something which is truly inspirational. Then the soul's manifestation is easier and faster, or more profitable for the world or for the society. So the main challenge area is not to be overcome by dogma or dogmatism or my arrogance or too much risk taking, too much pleasure seeking, too much adventure seeking. Your Sagittarius sign represents, and to be able to see it at a spiritual level rather than to bypass things or to take shortcuts. Look at the spiritual bigger picture which Sagittarius represents, and to be ethical and to be truly inspirational in your goal. So the goal that you're trying to do should be inspirational for people to get along with you. So the main developmental lesson for the soul here is to integrate your experiences, whatever you have learned so far, with the belief system, strong value system, integrated with your experiences to be able to obtain that objective, whichever your objective is, and to be very humble in your wisdom. So many times the placement of, say for example, Sun in Sagittarius can also make you a little arrogant also. So yeah, the main challenge for you, if you're trying to attain the soul's objective, is to be more humble in your wisdom. Sometimes you can be very intelligent, sometimes you can be very wise, but practice humility. Only then you will be truly wise. Where will the spiritual elevation come? The spiritual elevation comes from the self-belief you have in the goal. So unless you have a self-belief in the goals, unless you are ready to take some risks in trying to achieve the goal, only then you will be able to truly achieve the dharmic, the spiritual approach or the spiritual perspective towards the Atma Karaka's goal. So show grace, show openness, show the pride in welcoming people into the goal, get people along, be a little risk-taking, be a little adventurous, but at the same time be very exploratory in trying to obtain your objective when the Atma Karaka is in the Sagittarius sign. Now when the Atma Karaka is in the Capricorn sign or the Makara Rashi as it is called in Vedic astrology. So here the Atma Karaka in different signs is more about the how part rather than the what part. The what part comes from in which house the Atma Karaka is placed in your horoscope. That video I've already done, Atma Karaka in different houses. Today we're talking about the Atma Karaka in different signs, which means how should you be able to obtain the objective depending on which house it is placed in. So what should be your approach? So the main approach for the Atma Karaka when it is in the Capricorn sign, the main characteristic of that approach is to be very responsible for the end goal that you're trying to achieve, and in trying to achieve it to be very disciplined. So be very structured in your objective, be very disciplined in your objective, know what to do. Like it's like daily trying, being at it for days on end, for months on end, sometimes years on end to be able to obtain that objective, and to be very strategic in what you're trying to achieve rather than be too materialistic. So at strategic level means know that step number 1, step number 2, this is my goal, this is how I go about, these are the standard operating procedures or the flow chart that I will follow to be able to achieve it, and to be very stoic in your goals. Once you know this is my soul's goal, this is what I want to achieve for the society, for the world at large, be very stoic, be very, very confident that I'll be doing it, and be very disciplined in your approach. So that's the main drive for you. It's achievement for society, achievement to build for others, achievement to lead others, and then to show perseverance, endurance to be able to achieve, through strong perseverance to be able to achieve your goal. What will be your main challenge areas, the main frustrating or the roadblocks that you will face? One will be that sometimes being too stoic, too disciplined, the emotional connect to the work may not be there. Sometimes you may be too cold-hearted or too coldly ambitious about the goal rather than have some emotional connect. So that will be the challenge areas. If you're not emotionally connected, sometimes it may be very superficial because you are being too disciplined, too strategic, too structured, but there is no emotional connect. So that is something you need to watch out for and not be too controlling or over-controlling in what outcomes that you are trying to achieve. So give some flexibility in what you're trying to achieve rather than be too stringent or too confined in the structures you're following. What are the developmental lessons for you is to be very balanced in your work and in your heart and in your emotions rather than be too cold-hearted in what you're trying to achieve. So somebody says, no, this is, I need to achieve this. This is the missile I need to make for the country. But look at also the emotional part, look at the humanity part, look at the humane part also, which Capricorn sign represents to be able to obtain your objective. And to take authority along. Many times, sometimes with Capricorn sign, people tend to be too team working or too selfless or too serving. So here, this is also to work with authority to be able to obtain your soul's objective and to be more compassionate also. Now, what is the soul's elevation here? The soul's or the spiritual elevation will come from strong ambition, which is bordering on the rigid, but not too rigid. To give some flexibility to the discipline effort so that the emotional connection to be happen. And the leadership that you are going to take along or to create a rapport with should also be at very soulful, which means at a soul's level, you should feel happy that the alignment that I have with somebody who's superior or somebody who's wise, who's trying to guide you, also has a sense of purpose in trying to help you to be able to obtain the overall objective. So this is a more structured, disciplined, strategic approach to goal getting or to meet the soul's objective. And that is the how part, combining it with the what part, which will be about Atma Karaka and which house it is. Now, what is the manifestation of the Atma Karaka when it is in the Aquarius sign or the Kumbh Rashi as it is called in the Vedic astrology? Now, remember, the Atma Karaka in its sign is about the how part. What should be approach rather than the what part. The what part comes from which house the Atma Karaka is placed in. That video I've already done, Atma Karaka in different houses. Today we are talking about Atma Karaka in which sign. So you need to see the combined effect of Atma Karaka in different houses, that video, and Atma Karaka in different signs. Because Atma Karaka in a different sign or a certain sign means what should be approach, what should be the how part in trying to achieve the goal. So the main characteristic of the Atma Karaka and the Aquarius sign is about being more futuristic. Look at the bigger picture, look at the future. So whatever you're trying to obtain should not only be the immediate, but also look at the future sense, that how this will continue to help people long after you're gone. That will be a strong legacy that you're left behind. And this will also help people in how they will break the conventional boundaries. So do something more unconventional, which Aquarius sign represents. So there is more dependence, there is more independence rather than dependence on old dogma, old rules, old structures. So something new, something unconventional, something out of the box also, which the Aquarius sign represents, which is for general society, for the masses. So this should be something more humanitarian. This should be something more at an intellectual level rather than at the base level, at the materialistic level. So at a humanitarian level, at a society level, doing something unconventional to be able to help society is what the Atma Karaka and the Aquarius sign means. So this is something to uplift society. This is to break norm. This is to innovate. This is to do something out of the box. Look at the larger picture. This is almost like creating a new approach or a new philosophy to be able to do something more humane for society. So the main challenge area sometimes can be, you may be, because Aquarius energy is about society, the main challenge area is if you are too introvert, then there can be social detachment from the soul's objective, and then there will be a challenge in obtaining that objective. Sometimes there may be unpredictability of the goal when you're trying to do something at the humanity level, at the social level. Sometimes the goals may not be clear. It's like climate change. You're trying to do something for planting trees. So sometimes you may be planting seeds in your area, in the vicinity, but every seed may not manifest. So there is some degree of unpredictability to your approach also. What goal it is you will get from the house. The challenge can also be, Atma Karaka and Aquarius means that at a society level, to get people along to buy sometimes may not be very clear. So there is certain degree of unpredictability to it. So what is the main developmental lesson for you is to be very grounded in your ideals, to be more grounded in your compassion, to include others, to include society in trying to achieve your goal rather than going it all alone. So bringing people together, influencing people, guiding them together, bringing people along to be able to attain your objective. And that's where the spiritual elevation will also come, where the service is become very inspired. You're inspired to serve humanity. You're inspired to do something collectively as a collective evolution, a collective goal to do something for the masses rather than be isolated in your approach. Now, what does the Atmakaraka in the Pisces sign mean, or the main Rashi mean, as it is called in Vedic astrology? So, the placement of the Atmakaraka in a certain sign is more about the how part rather than the what part. In which house it is depends on, will give you what you're trying to achieve. The placement of Atmakaraka in a certain sign is more manifesting about the approach that you will do to be able to get the goal. What should be your how part in trying to achieve that goal rather than the what. So that video we have already done Atmakaraka in different houses. So you can use that combined with this to be able to see the what and the how part when you look at both. So what is the main characteristic of Atmakaraka being in the Pisces sign? This is about something that you do which is more sensitive in helping people, being more idealistic, being more creative, being more imaginative to be able to achieve what your soul's manifestation is. So being sensitive to people's needs, being more creative in people's need, but at the same time being more optimistic, and also forgive others if some people are not able to understand your goals, and some people are not able to help you in your goals, some people are not able to come along. So be optimistic, be more charitable, be more giving, which the Pisces sign represents. So even your goal should be something for charity, for donation, to do something for others without looking at accolades for yourself, without looking at appreciation for self. So the main drive should be almost something divine that you're doing for others rather than the material. So your dream should be that I want to heal people, I want to create, I want to do something, I want to leave a legacy behind. So the main challenge areas should keep, sometimes with such people with the Pisces sign is to escape into this dream world, or to be moving into something which is very which is illusionary, or which is an illusion, like a big goal, ideal world. So try to move away from something which is illusionary and overwhelming you emotionally, but to be more grounded, to be more sensitive, to be more charitable and donating to what is the objective at hand rather than big glorious ideals which are guiding your goals. So the developmental lesson for you is to establish the spiritual boundaries within which you will function, and to be very grounded in the compassion, in giving, in being charitable rather than looking at big material goals. Everybody should have a house, everybody should have food. So don't go with that, but go with what everybody should be happy, everybody should have peace. Go with more that goal. So your objective should be of how you're bringing more satisfaction, you're bringing more peace into the world, and being very imaginative and sensitive in trying to do that. So the spiritual elevation will not come from passively dreaming that I will do that, but being actively connected to the divine and having a practical purpose in what trying to achieve rather than being too illusionary and to be too dreamy. So the main objective of Atmakaraka in the Pisces sign is to use the creative energy to be able to do something, to contribute, to be charitable to others. And in being charitable, this can be an energy which can give you a chance of salvation itself and moksha itself, because this is the Pisces energies. And one of the most creative outputs, the creative goals that you can achieve for the general society is Atmakaraka in the Pisces sign. So friends, now that we have seen how the Atmakaraka plays in different signs is the how part, the approach part, do look at and combine it with the Atmakaraka in different houses. See that video as well and try and combine both so that you are able to achieve the soul's manifestation, the soul's goal. So friends, like this video, share this video, and if you're looking for a personal consultation from me, please reach out to me, the link is below. Till some other time with some other video, this is your friend astrologer and guide Irfan signing off.